All right, folks, the weekend's come and gone, and here we are again back in business. Preseason is nearly wrapped up now, 5 matches played, only 2 more to go this weekend. Before the real stuff kicks off, less than a fortnight away from the league opener against St. Mirren, and honestly the squad still looks like it's needing a decent bit of work. There's time, but not loads of it. And while some things are clicking, there's still a fair few questions hanging about, especially when you look at who might still be heading out the door. We'll get into some of that as well, especially touching on a couple of players from what many are calling the disastrous summer of 2020 either. But let's kick things off with a bit of good news. Kieran Tierney's back. Now this happened Friday passed, but it still got everyone talking. The man himself was officially unveiled again as a Celtic player back home at Parkhead. Scarf held high, smiles all round. He did the full round of media duties, TV, papers, and fan media too. And it's that fan media presser that's maybe the most interesting. Some proper good questions and honest answers from KT himself. First things first, he confirmed it was back in January when he knew for certain he'd be coming home. At that point, he'd been told he'd be a free agent in the summer, so talks started with Celtic. And the wheels were set in motion. There was a bit of will-o-twant tit for a January return, but eventually it was settled, a pre-contract agreed. And here we are now, he's back officially. And when asked if he sees himself at Celtic for the long haul, Tierney didn't flinch, said it himself. You don't come home at 28 thinking about leaving again. Sure, football's unpredictable, he knows that better than most, but he's signed a long-term deal. And from the way he's talking, he's in it for the long run. Doesn't mean we won't see interest from elsewhere in the future, but for now, his head and heart are here. He's been back training with the lads after missing the first week due to international duty. And already he's buzzing about the squad. Says there's loads of physicality, pace, and energy in the group, a real intensity. Plenty of new faces alongside familiar ones, and he's clearly feeling the vibe. From what he's saying, it sounds like the gaffer's been drilling that high press, high energy approach right back in, much like it was during his first spell. What's really interesting is how he talked about his own development since he left. In the 6 years away, he's been through a lot, played different positions, worked under various managers, battled injuries, and experienced pressure at some of the biggest clubs. He's been a center back for Scotland, a winger at times for Arsenal, and filled in across the back line. So now he comes back a more versatile, more mature player. And it sounds like he's well up for putting that experience to use. Not just for his own performances, but to help the younger lads coming through. He mentioned that the changing room's full of experience. Guys like Callum McGregor and James Forrest are still here, and they know what it takes to win. KT wants to be part of that support system for the new generation, just like others were for him when he broke through. He gave a lot of credit to Scott Brown, who coached him at under 20 level, and players like Mikael Lustig, who gave him proper guidance. That's the kind of environment Celtic builds when it's at its best, a place where experience gets passed down, not hoarded. And you can tell from how he talks about the club that this isn't just a job. For him, when asked about the pressure and expectation at Celtic, he said it's nothing new. For him, that's always been the standard: win well and do right by the badge. He knows how demanding the support can be, and he embraces it. That's what he grew up in, and that's what he's come back to. Now, there was a brilliant question that came up. One of the fan media guys asked if there was any regret about leaving when he did. You'll remember he was sold for a hefty fee, £25 million. It was great money for the club at the time, but in the end we didn't get the 10. So the question was basically, do you ever think, what if I'd stayed? Tierney handled it well. Said he obviously wanted Celtic to get the 10, but he's not sitting dwelling on the past. He's focused on the present, on this season, on being ready for the next match, on doing what he can for the team right now. Still, it was a class moment, him standing there now, a more experienced pro back at the club where it all started, and talking about his future with such commitment. There was even a cheeky wee nod to the idea of him becoming a captain one day, following in the footsteps of Bruni and Callum. Again, he kept it grounded, said he's not thinking too far ahead, but he wouldn't turn it down if the time ever came. Just wants to lead by example, do his bit, and help wherever he can. When asked who's impressed him most since returning, he didn't hesitate. Callum McGregor said being away just made him realize even more how good Cal is. Proper engine, never stops, leads by example. Also had high praise for Dayson. Maeda called him a joy to play with, full of energy and power. And you know what the idea of that left-hand side with Tierney overlapping Maeda. That's frightening for any opposition. Tierney even said it, he's buzzing to link up down that wing. And honestly, if they click, it could be one of the strongest partnerships in the league. One more heartwarming note from the presser: he talked about his recent visit to Lisbon. Said it was his first time there, and even the non-Celtic fans in the squad could feel how special it was. They got the full tour, walked through the tunnel, stood on the pitch. It was one of those moments that just hits you. You're not just playing for a football club, you're part of a legacy. So Kieran Tierney is back, and not just back in the shirt, but back with the right attitude, the right mindset, and a proper hunger to make this next chapter even better than the first. Honestly, it's brilliant to see. But as I said at the top of the show, not all the news around Celtic this week has been quite so joyful. We're still seeing the fallout from that shambolic summer window of 2020 either. A few more of those signings are edging closer to the exit door, and truth be told, that might not be a bad thing. Luis Palma's on the move, and this one's nearly wrapped up. He's already in Poland, landed at Poznan Airport, and is expected to undergo his medical before joining Lech Poznan on loan. Footage surfaced of his arrival, and everything's pointing towards this deal being made official very soon. Reports suggest there's a buy option in the agreement somewhere in the region of just over £3 million, which honestly, if it goes through, would represent decent business for Celtic given the circumstances. Now here's where things get a wee bit interesting. The Polish media are speculating about whether Palma can be registered in time to play in European competition this week. Lech Poznan are gearing up for their UEFA Champions League second qualifying round tie against the Icelandic champions Breiðablik. And yes, if they progress and we progress, there's a real chance we could face them down the line. That brings up the awkward potential scenario: could Luis Palma play against Celtic in a European tie? While still technically our player, it's not unheard of. You'll probably remember Mo Bangura. He was on loan at Elfsborg and played against us in a Champions League qualifier over a decade ago. At the time, it caused a bit of a stir. Neil Lennon wasn't exactly pleased, but UEFA rules didn't stop it, unless the parent club inserted a clause. It's one of those things, feels strange, a bit uncomfortable, but perfectly legal under the rules, unless otherwise stated. Would Celtic have added that clause this time? You'd hope so, but nothing's confirmed yet. Still, the thought of Palma scoring a decisive goal against us in Europe isn't exactly a comforting one, and it's not just Palma. Marco Tilio is heading out as well, this time to Rapid Vienna. This one's also a loan, and again there's a bit of structure built into the deal. Reports from Sky Germany claim Celtic are picking up a £350,000 loan fee up front, and if Tilio plays 20 or more matches, maybe starts, maybe appearances, that part's a little fuzzy, then Rapid would be obligated to buy him outright for around £1.3 million. So you're not exactly breaking the bank, but again, not a huge loss either, considering we paid about £1.5 million for him. Originally, Celtic might even scrape a profit here. Melbourne City already confirmed Tilio won't be returning, which lines up with all this, and it adds another tally to that woeful list from last summer. You look at those 9 signings Brendan Rodgers was handed when he returned: only Young and Bernardo are still around, the rest either gone, loaned out, or on the verge of leaving. Lagabielka gone, Nawrocki out on loan with an option to buy, Odin Holm still technically a Celtic player, but out at Lecce on loan, and from what's being said, he's not likely to return with a serious role. Kwan's been told he can go. Tilio's on his way. Palma's in Poland. Young might be next. It was a brutal window, and it's taking time to clean up the mess. That's the reality. We're still carrying the weight of that recruitment failure, and it's shaping how we move now. But there are glimpses of hope. Let's shift our focus to Japan for a moment. Celtic are bringing in Shunsuke Yamada, a move that's raised a few eyebrows, not because of his talent, which is clear, but because it shows just how long we've been tracking him. According to a Japanese journalist, Celtic made an offer for Yamada back in January. He chose us over clubs from the German Bundesliga, and that tells you a lot. It wasn't a last-minute deal. We've been watching him, planning and waiting for the right moment. The timing, as many have pointed out, feels linked to Kyogo's departure. If Celtic were already targeting Yamada in January when Kyogo was still here, it suggests he may have been identified as a long-term replacement. Of course, Brendan Rodgers reportedly wants another striker as well, so Yamada might not be the only solution, but the intent is there. The planning is finally happening in advance, rather than reacting to late. Late last night, some chatter also surfaced about another young talent, Andreja Babanin, an 18-year-old Serbian defensive midfielder from Kukuriki. Their sporting director came out and confirmed there's a lot of interest in the player, including from Celtic, Rangers, Ajax, and Udinese. Babanin didn't feature in their league opener, which only fuels the speculation. It's unclear how concrete our interest is. This might just be the club trying to drum up more offers, but it's Intriguing nonetheless. I always take these things with a pinch of salt. When Celtic and Rangers are both mentioned in the same breath, it often feels like a lazy way for agents or clubs to add value to their player. But this time the info came directly from someone at Kukariki, which gives it a bit more weight. Whether anything materializes, though, is another story. He's clearly a prospect, young, talented, already in the Serbian national setup for his age group. And it would be ideal to have someone like him come in and rotate with Callum McGregor when needed. But again, nothing close to confirmed now. Look, with all these ins and outs, it's natural to think about how the squad is shaping up ahead of the season. The preseason games have shown flashes, moments of quality, patches of dominance, but also vulnerabilities. The defensive line still doesn't feel settled. The midfield, while strong in some areas, lacks depth in others, and up front, well, the big question remains whether we've got enough firepower to make a dent in Europe and defend our domestic title at the same time. That's why the return of someone like Tierney is such a lift. He's not just a quality player, he's a statement. A player in his prime choosing to come home not for a payday. Not because he was unwanted elsewhere, but because he wanted to be here. That kind of mentality is infectious. It lifts the dressing room. It reminds the support what it means to wear the shirt, and you can see the impact already. He talked about linking up with Dazen Maeda, how he's looking forward to bombing up and down that left flank, feeding off the energy of one of the hardest working players in the squad. That partnership could be huge this season. Tierney's drive and delivery overlapping Maeda's relentless movement and pressing. It's a scary thought for any fullback in the league. But it's not just on the pitch. Off the pitch, Tierney brings leadership, experience. A player who's seen it all at Arsenal, played in European competitions, been through injuries, faced adversity. That kind of perspective is invaluable. And he's already talking about using it to help the next generation. Passing on what others gave him, being a mentor just like Lustig and Brown were for him. That's the culture Celtic needs to build and protect. And if there's a lesson in all this, it's that the club can't afford another summer like last year. The consequences are clear. Players coming in who don't fit, who don't adapt, who leave a year later with barely a contribution made. It's a waste of resources and a drain on momentum. This season, every signing has to matter. Every spot in the squad has to be earned and justified. So while Tierney's return is a massive positive, it has to be matched by quality elsewhere. We can't rely on sentiment. The ambition has to be clear. The board, the management, the recruitment team, they all need to be aligned. There's still time in the window, and the signs are that we're being more targeted, more deliberate. But actions, not intentions, will determine how this season goes. We're on the cusp of something, no doubt. A proper foundation is there. The fans are behind the team. The league is ours to defend. Europe, as always, is the big test. And with preseason nearly done, it's almost time to see what this new version of Celtic is really made of. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a storm brewing in the west end of Glasgow, and it's not the weather. Whispers are swirling round Ibrox and beyond after Rangers gaffer Russell Martin made what some are calling a thinly veiled dig at Celtic and their faithful. While no official statement's been made, those close to the club say Martin's offhand comment during a closed-door Q&A with supporters has lit the fuse on what could be another explosive chapter in the old firm rivalry. Word is, the Rangers boss cheekily remarked that some folk over the river mistake noise for loyalty. A quip many are taken as a pop at the green half of Glasgow. It didn't take long for boys fans to get wind of it, and social media's been ablaze with fury ever since. A few even called for Celtic to issue a formal response, while others took it as proof the pressure's already mounting at Ibrox ahead of the new season. Martin, who's barely settled into his role at the helm, is known for his calm demeanor and sharp football mind, but this stir might have been calculated. Some insiders suggest it's a tactic to galvanize the Gers locker room and remind the fans they've a man in charge who's not afraid to poke the bear, even if that bear lives across the city. Of course, this could all be just smoke and mirrors, a bit of mind games before a ball's even been kicked. But in a city where football isn't just a sport but a religion, even a whispered insult can echo like a cannon blast. Whether Martin's words were meant in jest or as a jab, the reaction's been anything but mild, with the first derby of the season still weeks away. The temperature's already rising. If Martin's aim was to rattle cages and stake his claim in this fierce rivalry, he's done just that. Now, all eyes will be on Celtic Park and Ibrox to see if this verbal spark turns into a full-blown fire. when the two sides finally meet. For now, though, the rumor mill keeps turning, and the city waits, breath held, for what comes next. Hello, fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.